Welcome back, bike fans. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for making this journey with us this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. On today's show, I continue my bold predictions as Karnak the Great, picking today's stage winner once again. Stage 6 route, results, details, we give it all. Froome Crash Watch reaches day 3 and everyone is on edge. We also learned that Wout van Aert is not going to win the Tour de France this year. And he's not even going to win the Dauphiné this year. News from the world of cycling, things that could make you go, some winners and losers. It's a packed show. Hang on. Froome Crash Watch, day 3. We've got some updates on that. A little bit more revealed as to, look, Chris, in case you've been hiding out, check out some of our past shows. We go into detail. Froome, winner of the Tour de France, winner of multiple Vuelta a Españas, and possibly multiple ones now, possibly since Kobo has been disqualified from his 2011 victory. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. Froome, on recon of the stage 4 individual time trial, crashed pretty horrendously into a wall. Multiple people were traumatized by it. He was left on the side of the road for 2 hours. They had to do some extra work on him. He's gone into intensive care. Just a little bit of update on his injuries. Indicated his pelvis was not injured, but his hip was. So they had to work on his. Basically, he's royally effed up. Okay. I saw a video yesterday from ITV, and it showed him riding no hands on his time trial bike just moments before this whole thing happened. Wout's next to him. He's trying to put on a jacket. It's kind of windy, and you can hear Wout actually say, "Hey, Wout Poels, that is. Hey, Chris, you don't have to take risks." Chris is like, it's no big deal. The video did not show the wreck. But look, you're on those time trial bikes. I couldn't imagine riding no-handed on them at all. That's not how he wrecked. So it was kind of eerie to see that with the commentary, and then moments later to know that he had crashed pretty bad. There was an interesting article here in Cycling News, a little bit of hyperbolic statement by his orthopedic surgeon, but this title is Froome could come back stronger within 6 weeks, surgeon says. Stronger? Orthopedic surgeon reveals Froome lost 2 liters of blood after the crash. That's pretty horrendous. One of the specialist surgeons who operated on Froome has revealed the Team Ineos rider lost close to 2 liters of blood due to the complex nature of his injuries, but has suggested, quote, he could need around 6 months to come back stronger than ever. Stronger than ever. I don't know what they're putting into him. Is a $6 million man, the Bionic Man. This also reminds me of President Trump's medical advice or results from his doctor, where he's a little bit hyperbolic on. The orthopedic surgeon Giorgio Gresta spoke to La Gazzetta dello Sport. The Italian doctor has worked in France in the last 20 years and revealed chose to stay late at Saint-Étienne Hospital when it was confirmed Froome was being transported by helicopter. Froome suffered serious injuries after crashing. We know that. He was conscious and reactive when my colleague Remy Philippot, who operated on Froome's fractured femur, and I explained what he would have to do. He was optimistic. Let's get to the part where he says he's going to be stronger than ever. The intensive care, that was a precautionary measure due to the length of the surgery and considering that the patient has lost a lot of blood, more or less 2 liters. He's not facing any specific risk, and it's important he stays calm and relaxed. He'll be transferred to normal care unit as soon as possible. His recovery time depends on his desire to fight back, but he seems very motivated. He could just need 6 months to be back stronger than before. I don't know. He was pretty strong before. He's won multiple tours. He's had a chance to win his 5th Tour de France. He was, second in last year's tour. Stronger than ever. Seems a bit much. But, hey, look, we're glad he's recovering. The intensive care sounds like more of a precautionary thing. Losing the 2 liters of blood, though, was pretty much, that might have been a pretty horrific scene. It would be interesting to hear some details about the roadside and how bad that actually was. If he's losing that much blood on the scene, or maybe that was due to the surgery, I'm not sure which one. That's pretty intense. Okay, let's get right to stage 6 of the Dauphiné. Look, we got stage 6 today, Friday, stage 7 tomorrow, Saturday, and then finishing on Sunday. So we have 3 stages left. Stage 6 is done, but we're going to recap it. Let's talk about it. Was there any corrections we need to make from yesterday's stage? Probably. Maybe you can send those in. When I re-listen to it, I hear myself saying things like, I'll say one. I mentioned I was making a correction of Contador over Quintana, and then I said Tour de France when I meant Vuelta. I mean, I just keep correcting the corrections. It happens. So send us your corrections, any of your comments as well. The race today, from Saint-Villevoz to Saint-Michel-de-Meran, 228 kilometers. The start, Saint-Villevoz is a commune in the Ain department in eastern France. How about the finish? The Saint-Michel-de-Meran. It's a small town in France. I couldn't find much about it. Look, go visit those places you want. They look very quaint and pretty exciting if you want to just go chill out there. I think the population is under 1,000. So take your family there. You're gonna increase the population by a bit. The route today, just south of Geneva, heads east into the bigger mountains and the Italian-Swiss borders. Coming into the town, as we talked about, hits a Cat 2 climb and then a 7-kilometer finish. So the predictions on the day. This was, as I said, it had 8 categorized climbs, a 2, a 4, a 4, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 3, a 2. And those climbs start around the 80-kilometer point, and it's up and down all day. A lot of climbing, long day in the saddle. I said over the top of the climb, it looks like there's a nibbly type of thing, Mahoric. I also said Julian Alaphilippe. Well, I didn't expect him to get in the break, but that's exactly what happened today. Let's look at the GC stage results after stage 5. Adam Yates was in the lead. Dylan Toynes, TJ Van Garderen down to 3rd. I'm going to just mention 5th place, Wout van Aert at 20 seconds. And he's a surprise for today. Well, not a surprise, but he's one to keep look at today. I was interested to see how he would do with all the climbing. Since, hey, this cross guy, maybe cross helps you go uphill as well. Okay, so on the day, the break went early. Like 12 kilometers into the 228-kilometer race, you had Alaphilippe attacking. You had Alessandro Di Marche from the CCC team coming. Julian Alaphilippe with Ducournau Quick-Step. And then you had Gregor Molberger of the Bora Hansgrohe team. Look, no one in the trio was more than 16. I think Alaphilippe was the closest on GC, around 16 minutes. So the field was more than content to let them go. They went way early. They get up towards around at least 12 minutes at one point, heading into the final climb. It was pretty windy out there today, so I think it just helped calm the field down a little bit. And with that said, like I said, they go into the final climb at about a 12-minute lead. It was very windy, and that climb, you'd expect maybe something was going to happen on the day. What did Tom Dumoulin say before? He said, "Today I will take it easy as possible. And yesterday I felt some problems with the knee, so I will take it easy today and hopefully work on my shape again on the weekend." Look, he's concerned about the Tour. I know he's kind of waffling back and forth. I can tell the way he's riding in this that he's testing himself out. But obviously you don't want to injure yourself and put yourself in a hole and further back, just to keep trying to push on to maybe be ready for the Tour, and then what you end up doing is having a nagging knee injury. Maybe it ruins your career. Or maybe you have surgery and you come back stronger than ever before. Okay, so up the final climb, the GC field remained calm. The sprinters and those mid-range roilers start to get spit out the back. Wout van Aert actually sits up. Team Ineos, now they're working for Wout Poels. They go to the front. They kind of have a calming effect on the field, I think, because they instigate the pace. No one decides to take off. There's a lot of wind. The guys are way up the road, so the stage wind isn't even at issue. And you didn't see any of the GC riders doing much of anything on the climb. They pretty much just went over. They did cut the pace, the deficit down from 12 minutes to around 6 at the finish. So up ahead on the climb, you have these 3. Julian Alaphilippe, we know this is tailor-made for him. Molberger is a decent climber as well, and those two kind of start attacking each other in the last 2 kilometers. They get rid of Di Marche. He ends up trying to come back. He ends up getting back, calling himself back to them around 1 kilometer to the summit. And at that point, he decides, I'm just going to go for it, and he attacks. I think it was, in hindsight, those 2 guys up front can really, Molberger and Julian Alaphilippe they have a pop. And he could probably beat them in a sprint, but up that climb, he had already been distanced. I don't know why he was doing that, because all he needs to do is hang on, and then he's got the downhill and a good shot of winning. He just got second a few days ago, I think, to Dylan Toynes was when he was in that break. either way, he ends up trying to attack. They counter and dump him just a few hundred meters from the top, and he's not seen again. Come down the side. Alaphilippe goes off the road at one point into the grass, but cleanly makes it out. I mean, it's kind of a lucky little thing on the side of the road, and he just flies right through the grass, continues his momentum down. And coming into the last few hundred meters, you've got Mollberger decides to lead out Alaphilippe. I don't know if it's just, look, sometimes it's difficult to get these guys off your wheel or however they want to do it. Maybe they're still worried about Dumarche coming in. So Mollberger takes to the front. Now, Julian Alaphilippe yesterday got third, narrowly getting third in a sprint finish, pack finish over was just beating him with Sam Bennett come across the line and Wout van Aert. So he has a good kick. So leading him out was not a great idea. However, when they hit the front and they decided to sprint head-to-head around 200 meters to go, it was a headwind. It was obvious that Julian Alaphilippe was in the wrong gear. If you just look at the cadence by the two, I think Mollberger did the best he could by having a gear that he could come over the top on. Alaphilippe with the wind when he came out on the front was having a hard time turning it over. But he is the stronger sprinter, and in the end, he did a bike throw. He gets him by, almost a little more, maybe 2 rims. So it was pretty close. Alaphilippe gets his 10th victory of the season. The field closes in 6 minutes with Wout van Aert not being there, getting jettisoned out. Only really the guy in the top 20, I think, top 10 at least, that had a bad day as far as results go. So we found out that he's not the climber, or he's focusing on, look, someday he may come over the top and change his riding skill set a little bit. But for now, he's still in the points jersey. He dropped way out on the young rider jersey, and obviously on GC as well. So results for the day. Let's take a look at how we had for the results. So on the day, we had Julian Alaphilippe, Gregor Mollberger, Alessandro Dumarche of the CCC team. Wout Poels brings in the field 6 minutes and 10 seconds back. Gorka Zagura, Jakob Fuglsang actually wrecked. We'll talk a little bit about that. Jack Haig, Adam Yates, etc. He had 3 Americans up there. TJ Van Garderen at 21st. But you had Nilsen Paulus of Jumbo and Sepp Kuss 26th and 27th. They came in with that front group, so good for them. Joy Roskop just misses out on that. She's coming in at 7 minutes back, 36th place. So, hey, pretty cool about that. As far as the GC goes, we have Adam Yates in first, Dylan Toynes in second. Nothing changed except for Wout. Everybody in 5th place on down in the top 20 pretty much moved up. Someone else in the top 20 must have moved down as well. Biggest loser on the day, Niels Pollitt and Damien Housen both dropped out, losing 8 and 13 places. Wout van Aert goes down to 34th place. He lost 29 places on the day, which you were expecting to see. Nilsen Paulus moves up 13 places. Julian Alaphilippe moves up 25 places on the day. It's still not. I mean, look, he's prepping for the Tour, and that's I don't know what his plans are. We talked to Mike Sayers here a few weeks ago, and he seems to think that Julian Alaphilippe will be one to compete in the Tour de France coming up at some point. I mean, right now he's probably your most prolific French winner. Who else is there that's winning to the tune of 10 wins a season on a French team? Not even a sprinter. So congrats to him, and obviously a real talented rider. Biggest losers. So the winners on the day, I'm picking Julian Alaphilippe along with Americans Sepp Kuss and Nilsen Paulus for both finishing in the front group. It wasn't the super hard day, but it was only like 20, 30 riders that ended up in that front climbing group. And I don't think they probably had to suffer too much to get up and over that. But it's good to see them doing their work, staying up front. There was a lot of yellow that came across the line. Now there's Mitchelton Scott, there's Jumbo Visma. They're both kind of some yellow, but when they came across the line, you had a bunch of people all mixed up in there. So as I mentioned, Yates is still in the lead, and he's got a good shot at getting this overall. I think Dylan Toynes is probably going to be taken out in the next day, probably tomorrow. Probably Van Garderen, who's in third place. Tour of California was such another eye-opening disappointment with him. I don't know though if that maybe the climbs that we see in France that are a little less steep and a little more long and grinding are more suited to him, what you would see like South Lake Tahoe type of thing rather than going up Mount Baldy that we had in California. But I mean, he's done well before, obviously getting 5th in the Tour overall, winning stages of the Tour de Suisse. I mean, TJ, I don't know. Otherwise, you're going to see Fuglsang. I mean, if he's still riding the way he did early season, you're going to see him coming to the fore. Quintana, Kreuzwick, Pinot. I think Pinot is one that you're probably going to be looking for to see him and Woods. Those are the two I'm most interested to see of how they develop out throughout this next 2 days. So what do we got coming up? Stages 7 and 8. Saturday's route has 4 climbs, a Cat 1, 1, 1, and then HC. And then Saturdays has 7 category climbs, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. But the most interesting part about both of those is they go tomorrow 133 kilometers, and then Sundays is 113 kilometers. So really short stage, 60-some miles there, 70 for Sunday. And with that many climbs, it's going to be, a lot of sparks are going to be hitting for the fireworks there. Tomorrow, though, it ends on an HC climb, so I think you're going to see a big shakeout go, obviously, tomorrow, and then a little more, maybe some consolation on Sunday. But, someone that's in 20 seconds of the overall, depending on who that is, they can take a long-range solo, or a break, try to really isolate a team, if someone didn't have teammates there, and see what they can do. That's that famous race that they did in the Vuelta a few years ago when Contador took Froome by surprise. 60-some kilometer race, drills it at the front to begin with, and Froome and his whole team get taken by surprise. Contador ends up winning the Tour. Okay, some cycling news in and around. Remco Evenepoel gets his first World Tour win at the Tour of Belgium yesterday. The Quick Step, the corner rider. He's been hyped up. He's 19 years old. He won the time trial and road race world championships for the juniors last year. He decided to skip the U23 ranks, went straight to DeQuina Quick Step. He ended up, I think, did he win? He might have, this is his first World Tour win. I think he was top 3 in the time trial and the Tour of San Juan early season, which showed he's obviously a strong rider. Yesterday, he gets in a break with Victor Campenaerts, the world time trial hour record holder, and dumps him with 6 kilometers to go, comes in solo. He had a pretty excited sprint or finish there, post up, and congratulations to him. And I think we're going to see a bunch more of him in the future. As long as he doesn't get burnt out and, being so young, it'll be interesting. Look, most I've seen out of him was San Juan, and then last week with the Hammer Series, I saw he was pretty active and in a break with Greg Van Avermaet. Did you say Hammer Series, Tyler? I said Hammer Series. I didn't. That's still going on. And anybody watching the Hammer Series out there, I think it's a good concept. I just think it needs to be tweaked a little bit. And the fact that it's streamed online for free on Facebook by GCN or YouTube is pretty cool. I just haven't even been taking advantage of it. It's somewhat difficult to get into that one for some reason. This is Rally UHC Cycling announces their Tour de Suisse team. They have Ryan Anderson, Rob Britton, Robin Carpenter, Colin Joyce, Gavin Mannion, Brandon McNulty, and Sven Tuft. Brandon McNulty didn't have a very good Tour of California. I think he was a little bit sick. He won a race coming into the Tour of California. It would be interesting to see how this team does out there with some of these riders and having the ability to, they do pretty good like Tour of California, and they've done a little bit more Eurocentric racing. And, the first glance at the start list of the Tour de Suisse, which starts Sunday, I believe, it looks like it might be a little easier competition-wise than the Dauphiné. So, you've got Aru. This is just some that I was able to pick out. Aru, Bernal, Thomas, Hugh Carthy, who did the Giro, Pozzovivo, who did the Giro, Luis Leon Sanchez of Astana. Otherwise, you don't see a bunch of big hitters out there. Movistar has Winner Anaconda. There's someone else that they have there as well, but none of their other big riders. Hugh Carthy, it'd be interesting to see, if he's recovered enough from the Giro to take this on very well. Otherwise, you may, Bernal and Thomas are obviously 2 big ones, but they're on the same team. So I don't know, that might neutralize one. So it's a little different than seeing two guys attacking off of each other. We'll see how that goes. Good luck to Rally UHC out there at the Tour de Suisse. Look, registration for the U.S. Cycling Road Amateur Championships is underway. It kicks off June 20th, so coming up here this next week with the individual time trial. It's in Maryland, so all those amateurs that are looking for, Cat 1 Open and U23s, juniors, I think they have para cycling out there this year. Those are all, you need to register for that. And then Masters then the pros are coming up the next week. Then you've got Masters out in August. So national championships coming up pretty quick. I found this story to be somewhat interesting. I saw from Cycling Today, cyclists break traffic laws to stay safe, study finds. New study published in the Journal of Transport and Land Use details when, how, and why cyclists decide to break traffic laws. While many studies have sought to understand the reasons motorists break the law, fewer have focused on cyclists. Wesley E. Marshall, an engineer and sociologist from the University of Colorado, and Daniel Pietkowski, an urban planning professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, wanted to better understand the rule-breaking cyclists and the factors associated with their unlawful behaviors. First thing I'd note is University of Colorado and the University of Nebraska collaborating on an issue. As someone who went to CU Boulder, Nebraska was very much hated. And you know what the N on their helmets stand for? Knowledge. All right, everyone breaks the law, but things like going over the speed limit in a car are socially acceptable. We don't see that as criminal, says Dr. Wesley Marshall. When cyclists break the law, they are behaving like this image of a bike messenger's reckless behavior or are behaving rationally like a jailbreaker. So what's the most significant result is that 71% of the time when cyclists break traffic rules, they do so for reasons of personal safety. This compares to the most prevalent response among pedestrians and drivers who cite saving time as a reason they disregard traffic laws. Look, I'm out there riding a lot with, cars. You're always a little bit worried about getting hit. Anytime I'm approaching vehicles at stops, I'm doing what I can to make sure I'm obeying the law because there's a seamlessness to it. And it makes it smoother if whoever's in line first, they go. A lot of times I've seen lately, maybe it's where I live, there's a lot of cyclists out there. Cars are trying to wave me through stop signs and stop lights when have the right of way. And I've been hit by cars when I've actually done that. So it's almost frustrating. And I know they're being nice, but I'm just like, look, if I'm going to assume you're obeying the law and you're following things correctly. So this is kind of an interesting study. And typically you'd think that demographics would be important, but they were. But where they lived and rode mattered the most, he says. What's more, Marshall, who recently moved to Sydney, Australia for a 6-month sabbatical to study traffic safety there, suspects that place can change a rider's habits. I've been riding a lot here, and I've been behaving like a Sydney rider, he observes. The social norms of place matter. Exactly. It's kind of what I was saying about living out in Folsom, California. Same with Boulder. If you're going to be downtown or a place that isn't used to cyclists. I grew up in the Northwest, and you'd be out in all these wheat fields. There's no traffic at all. There's a combine going from one field to the next. It holds up traffic. They're doing like 10 miles an hour. No one has a problem. You get one cyclist on the side of the road, and people freak the F out, throwing stuff at you, honking, trying to run you off the road. I'm like, but this farmer you're fine with, and you've been behind him for like 20 minutes. So, it's all perspective and personal to each person, but stay safe out there, everybody. Viewer listener mailbag. We got some, I posted a bunch of videos out, took some highlight videos. Look, take a look at the one about the Chris Froome crash. That I actually posted the video of our friend Scott Hooper, who's on a group ride. We went over the top of Sierra College. I'm on Jay Newton's wheel. He's got the camera trying to hang on, and I point out a rock. Scott hits the rock and flips out into traffic. Luckily, there was no traffic coming our direction, and he almost goes to the center line as the car's coming the other direction. And it could have been fatal. Been very glad that he was safe. There was no severe injuries at all. It's a pretty horrific looking crash. Take a look at it if you want. I posted that up on our full YouTube channel, the full episode, and then a highlight with the Chris Froome crash. Also did a highlight of our Kellen Winslow, which Sean Bagley commented on here about that. He goes, because I mentioned Mark Paul Gosselaar as well. He says, I've raced with Mark Paul Gosselaar a few times in SoCal. He was fast. He's a good sprinter. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the input. I heard an interview with him a few years ago about the tour and about cycling. He was a real big fan. Probably still is. I just think he started actually working more in Hollywood the last few years. And he was pumping up a little bit. So I don't think he's been riding what he was. Matter of fact, the last 5 years or so, last time I checked, I think it was last year I was looking at some of his stats. He hadn't raced for quite a while. Lord Wario mentioned this one on the Juan Jose Cobo. He said, Cobo is a cheat. Yeah, that's right. He is a cheat. That's what the UCI just said. Thanks for the comment. Curt Mills mentioned about Froome and Cobo. He said, an all-natural Froome could have beat a doped Cobo had it not been for the completely unlikable Wiggo, who always served to just hold poor Chris down. That's right. It makes you wonder what Sir Bradley Wiggins thinks about it, or is going through his mind right now that Chris just got handed the Vuelta victory. Comes across to me that those two have a little bit of animosity still with him. Okay, how about some things that make you go, Okay, well, I saw this come across my feed yesterday. Reggie Miller debuts a jersey with Castelli. They're donating portions of it to charity. How does an old has-been basketball player get a sponsorship deal that probably is better than most cyclists? You don't see Phil Guyman with this kind of thing. Phil's hawking. Well, so this was for a charity, and they team. Castelli says, okay, why is this relevant? Look, the NBA Finals just happened. Toronto Raptors just won in 6 games. Curt just sent me a message this morning. It's a video of him saying that the Raptors are going to win in 6. So he says he predicted this. Now, I suspect that video was made right before he sent it to me.
So tonight's game 1 of the NBA Finals, and I'm going to go with the Raptors in 6.
But needless to say, he says he predicted it. And so if he wants to be my Miss Cleo to my Karnak the Great, that's perfectly fine. It ever makes you wonder, Miss Cleo, she was indicted on federal fraud charges. Shouldn't she have seen that coming? Okay, Castelli says, we have teamed up again with Reggie Miller to support the Dropping Dimes Foundation, which was created to help ABA players who have fallen on hard times. All profits from the sale of the unique Bombay products will be matched by Reggie Miller and donated to the Dropping Dimes Foundation. Reggie Miller's created this annual fundraiser to merge his love of biking, love of cycling is what you should have said there, with his love of basketball. This is how you get people incidentally signing up to the Between Two Wheels podcast when they want to sign up to the motorcycle one. The confusion with biking and cycling, I think, when they call him bikers. He's a biker. Simply put, we aim to give back to deserving American Basketball Association players. And look, the ABA was the 1960s, 1970s. It merged with the NBA in 1976. I just thought, we'd have a little deal here. As part of the merger agreement, the NBA agreed to accept 4 of the remaining 6 ABA teams: the Denver Nuggets, Indiana Pacers, New York Nets, San Antonio Spurs. The 2 remaining ABA teams, the Kentucky Colonels and the Spirit of St. Louis, folded with their players entering the dispersal draft. This is all due to the Oscar Robertson v. National Basketball Association when they blocked the merger in 76. So there were some issues there. Did you know that Kentucky had a team called the Kentucky Colonels? And they, who knew? One of the biggest stars coming out of there, Dr. J, Julius Erving. Anyway, that's enough on the basketball stuff. What's coming on the calendar? We have the Tour de Suisse coming up this week, the OVO Energy Women's Tour, the Belgium Belgium Tour. As I said, Remco Evenepoel just won a stage here yesterday. NCNCA, there's nothing coming up on the calendar this weekend. Thanks, Red Kite. Brisbane Crit is next weekend. We got the Amateur Nationals, Road Pro Time Trial, and Road Nationals, along with the paracycling ones as well. Anyway, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. This has been episode 128. I don't think we're going to do a play-by-play daily podcast for the Tour de Suisse. This is just kind of a warm-up to see how efficient I could do these for the Tour de France, because I would like to pop out some early every morning do a few little highlights on how the tour is going. Give some breakdown. Maybe we'll have some people join in some live chats as well. Anyway, check out the show on all the podcast platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Overcast.fm. Check us out on our YouTube channel, Between Two Wheels Podcast. Also on our Facebook page, Between Two Wheels. And until next time, take care.